Welcome to Freed on Business. He grew up in South Florida, has been in business here since the early 90s, and has closed over $3 billion in deals. He's seen it all. He always has an opinion, and he's always ready to share it. Informed, entertaining, and connected, he has his finger on the pulse of South Florida's business community. He's Jim Freed, and this is Freed on Business.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Freed on Business. This is episode 877. Oh my gosh, 877. We have one of our favorite, actually probably my favorite, my favorite repeating guest on today, Tom Handler. Tom is based up in Chicago, but he's got an international tax and wealth protection law practice up, it's internationally. He has families he works with all across the globe. So we're going to talk to Tom about what he's seeing from both a real estate transaction structuring and a general overall overview of what's driving tax policy, income policy, things that impact our high net worth investor class down here in South Florida, in the United States, and around the world. I'm going to remind everybody you can follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube channel gets all kinds of hits. We're on all the Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, everywhere. You get a podcast, you can find us there. So remember, and I want to thank, of course, our friends at Warren Henry Automotive, the third generation running Warren Henry Automotive. Thank you to Larry, his dad, Warren, and of course, they had their father, the original Mr. Zinn. I'm blanking now, so I'll figure it out later. But I want to thank our friends at Warren Henry Automotive. And now on with the show. Where's Tom? Tom.
Jim, how are you?
I'm great. I want to thank you for sending all the billionaires from up north down to Florida to live. What's making them come, and why? And will they still keep coming?
You know, we're just doing our part to make Florida, Tennessee, Texas, and Wyoming far wealthier than they otherwise would be. And as in 2023, Illinois was the highest overall taxing state. We beat New York and California, which of course is difficult to do. However, not only were we the highest overall taxing state, we were the most bankrupt state by a pretty good margin. And our governor proposed to raise the income tax to 12%, which would have made us the highest overall taxing state by a massive margin, while still remaining the most bankrupt state. So we've lost an awful lot of people. We've been the number one state per capita. So California and New York have lost more people overall, but as a percentage of the population, we're number one. And Florida is the number one destination. And but for Ken Griffin, I'd be paying 12% Illinois taxes. He used $50 million of his own money to stop this, quote, fair tax, which is anything but fair, from going through. And the result is he left. And so one of our biggest taxpayers, and I don't know how many executives he has in seven figures, it's a large number, they all left too. Yeah. So I'm now paying more than my fair share. So I'm not happy that he left, but I understand completely our Illinois politicians are very special, highly incompetent, and we're only the second most corrupt state, but we are the most corrupt city at 17, 18 years in a row. So it takes incompetence, corruption, and overt guts of doing things that are totally reprehensible to get where we are, but these guys are special.
So what about the property tax? They're now trying to roll back property taxes in Florida. That just really shifts the burden around a little bit. And, our governor is starting to sound a lot like the mayor of New York, talking about taxing all these people that are part-time residents. I mean, what are your thoughts on this taxing on part-time residents and property taxes in general?
So let me start by saying I've always hated property taxes because it's a wealth tax, right? So I will end up paying for my personal residence 4 times over by the time I die, because I'm writing these massive real estate property tax checks on a property I already own and have paid for, on money I already earned and paid tax on that before I could buy it. So I don't like the concept of it at all. It's been used primarily because it's funding education in the local town and its programs, but it may not be the best method for doing that. And the idea of just jacking it up or creating what have been called billionaire and millionaire taxes, where they just say, if you're over this level, we take X, which is in my opinion, unconstitutional deprivation of property without due process. But California and others have proposed that tax. Illinois isn't there yet because we have every other tax. So, there's not a lot more places we can go between the gas tax, the fuel tax, the restaurant tax, the tax on Google and Zoom, 10.5% sales tax, and ridiculous real estate tax. You can't make this up. I got my first $130 gallon of gasoline. I was totally shocked. I know my tank must have expanded.
Oh my God, that's tremendous. You're so great. So Tom, you advise all these high net worth families. I recently ran into an old friend of mine. She's going to be, her husband just died, and she's on her way to Lisbon, probably just about now. We all know why. Why would people be on their way to Lisbon if they just had a big capital event?
So Portugal has been a favorite place to camp out for some time. They've been very open to immigration, particularly if you've got income and net worth and education. So they had one of the first golden visas, which is a program that allows you to get citizenship via home ownership. And they, in effect, drew concentric circles like around a quarry and up to a certain place, like it's a monopoly. And once you get beyond a certain place, then the other quarries get to compete. So the closer you are to inner city downtown, the bigger the place you have to buy. The more out in the woods you go, the less expensive the property to get that citizenship. So the current program is under amendment, as I understand it, but an awful lot of people went there. It's lovely. It's a nice place to be. You can get citizenship, and then you can travel the world on this golden visa. To avoid U.S. taxes, you would also have to renounce your citizenship, which most Americans are not going to do. And there's a giant exit tax when you do that. So you pay like an estate tax as though you died, for lack of a better reference. And this tax didn't exist until Clinton took office. Like in the 12 years of Reagan-Bush, 13 people renounced their citizenship, like 300 renounced in the first 100 days of the Clinton administration. So they put in this exit tax to make it harder. And yet we still had thousands of people renounce during the Obama administration, which is the biggest, highest number in history by far of people to renounce their citizenship. So without that move, you end up in a nice jurisdiction, great properties, a lot of value for the money. They're open to international population, and you can travel the world on that visa and without taking the risk of being an American. When you're number one, you're not popular. We're the wealthiest, most powerful country in the history of Earth by a huge margin, and that does not make you popular. So a lot of people prefer to travel on another passport or a visa so they don't know you're Americans, because you don't want to be taken hostage or hostage and kidnapped or robbed or whatever the case might be. So it makes a lot of sense. So part of it is a tax move, part of it is an alternative. Something blows up here, you have a place to go, and then global travel might be arguably more safe with such a program. So Portugal's been one of the top jurisdictions. There are others, but that's the one that probably comes up the most in the last 10 years.
So, a lot of the times we talk about taxes, I wanted to talk a little bit about transaction structuring and money raising, because the biggest issue in today's real estate world is that there's plenty of capital and debt available. There's plenty of debt available, but there's not a lot of LP money and GP money. A lot of that money has come from high net worth investors. A lot of them are still buried in deals that they can't get out of because of the interest rates never declined, and now they may not again. But Tom, there's like three different ways that I know that families invest in real estate. They invest directly, they invest in funds, and then there's also a structure where they kind of pool their money and create kind of like a club. What are your thoughts on these different structures? And is there a best of those three, or is it situational? Have at it.
That's a very good topic, and it's come up at a number of ultra high net worth family office conferences over the last few years. The fund structure is attractive when you don't want to be involved in the day-to-day, or you can't add value, you don't have the expertise. You're going to pay a cost. There's going to be a management fee and a promote, a carry in those deals, but you've got people with expertise and you're diversified. So it may be a lower yield, but you also have lower risk, and that's attractive to people. The direct deal, just like private equity and venture capital, a lot of family offices will attempt to do the deal directly with other families or with the family that runs that business. So you want to be in the railroads. Well, you want the family that owns all the railroads, and you say, look, we're in it as long as you are. You're the experts. We've done the due diligence on you, so we're alongside you. And as long as you're in it, we're in it. So those family offices tend to be aligned with each other, and they like that long-term allocation. I've heard one of our families said, well, you tell us when you want to get out, we're out. As long as you're in, we're in. We're going to follow your lead on this. You're the experts. And I saw a group of Italian billionaires, like one owned a lot of harbors, had maritime expertise, one owned shipping, one owned the railroads, and a fourth family had political connections. They all kind of came together and did these direct deals. I'm like, I'd like to be in these deals because it would be hard to lose. You control the transportation, you've got political cover, you got the marina, you got the ships, you got the road. Life looks pretty good. That's pretty hard to achieve. That's what our robber barons did before there was an income tax and they could get away with it. That's tough to do today. So those direct deals are very attractive, and it's a trend. There are more direct deals being done every year than were done in the past, though I will also say there's been a lot of criticism because the additional risk of those deals and not having to source as many. So, the family might have 3 analysts and the real estate fund has 22, right? They look at 1,000 deals, they do 10, family looks at 100 and does 2. It may not be the best working percentage. So doing the deals with another family capable and who built their billions in that industry is very attractive. And then the LP route can go both ways. Often you'll have the family running the show will bring in other families' LPs, or then they'll go to the regular millionaire. If you're accredited, you can invest in these things for relatively small amounts of money. So you might have a $1 billion partner, you may have a $100,000 partner, right? So the LPs are like the old syndications that were rocking and rolling in the 80s and 90s. That's what every deal looked like for a period of time. And that won't go away anytime soon. There's no liability to the investor. You don't really have any control, but you can diversify and you can get in for smaller amounts if you choose to. And if you're a big enough family, maybe $1 billion is diversified to you if you're a large family. So all 3 are quite popular. I'm not sure that any one is best. And I will say that the thought of direct is always best, that's not the current thinking. The current thinking is it is sometimes, but other times it's more risky. You could be worse off. So I think families often will have a blend. I'm talking about non-real estate families who are coming into this. They'll often have a blend. They may have some direct deals. They may invest in other families. They may be an LP. They may be in a fund. They may go across the board to try to chop it up in a way that makes sense to them. So they're all viable. Wouldn't say one's best for the other. I think it's come down to, what is your time frame tolerance? What is your risk tolerance? And what are your investment objectives in the deal? And that will drive you toward one or two of these versus, doing them all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that an important component that I can say is that you have to surround yourself with the best advisors, and you have to, kind of put your ego aside and listen to your advisors as well. I think that's a critical role that you and your teammates play at your firm. Tom, if you could stick with us, we'd like to take a quick break, and then we want to come back and have you give us your bottom line topic. I know you come to these shows prepared. I know you've got some remarks you'd like to make. So I want to come back and I want to focus on your bottom line about what's going on today that people need to know. Mind staying with us for a second?
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Miami Podcast Studios, do your thing. All right. I want to thank our friends at Warren Henry Automotive. We've been, the podcast has been around for 877 episodes. Warren Henry's been involved in probably 800 of them as a baseline sponsor of Freedom Business. I want to thank the Zinn family. They're a very unique animal in the family business sector. They're 3rd generation. So I want to thank Larry. I want to thank Warren. And I remembered, and I want to thank Dave Zinn, who was the original patriarch of the Zinn family. That brought all of these wonderful automotive experiences here to South Florida decades and decades and decades ago. If you want to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you work with Warren Henry. Join my friends My clients, my beautiful wife, Vivian, and my mom were all members of the Warren Henry family. They've got their flagship store at 151st at Biscayne, where they sell Land Rover, Range Rover, Land Rover, Range Rover, and Jaguar. Land Rover, Range Rover, Jaguar, and Lincoln. You see, I got all excited about remembering Dave's in, and I forgot the brands. And they've got a great store in the Keys that carries all their nameplates. They've got an award-winning Land Rover, Range Rover store in South Dade, a Land Rover, Range Rover store award-winning in West Broward. They are tremendous people. They sell tremendous vehicles. They take great care of your car. My friend Gerald, my service advisor, takes great care of me, and of course my friend Brandon, who's the F&I manager over there, he makes sure you get the great deal. So they structured the deal so it's best for you. So remember, always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry.
Welcome back to Freedom Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freedom Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
Welcome back to Freedom Business. Our guest is Tom Handler. He's the international wealth protection expert, a brilliant, internationally respected tax attorney. We're going to be right back with him in just a second. I want to remind everybody you can reach out to me, Jim Freed. I'm a connector. I bring everybody together. I help them create their business plans and execute their business plans for families, investors, and international investment firms from across the world. So reach out to me. There's my contact information. Remember, whenever you call me, it's always all about you. And now back to Tom Handler for the bottom line. There he is, Tommy. How are you hanging out there while I was doing my thing?
It's all, I feel like I'm in South Florida because it's about 88 degrees and raining pretty heavy here. So I'm more in your world than I am in mine. That's not typical June weather in Chicago, but that's what's going on.
Well, I was a summer intern for JMB in Chicago. When I got there in June, it was freezing cold. I left in mid-August. It was freezing cold. And in the middle, couldn't even see the pump houses for the ozone. It was like 103 degrees.
So, I'm Austrian by background. So we play ice hockey, we luge, we ski, we do all that stuff. So we're not troubled by that weather, just to be clear. But I get it. We don't do... what do they call it? Curling? Basically,
curling. You've been watching too much Olympics, Tom.
If you can drink beer and be 100 pounds overweight and it's a sport, there's something wrong with this picture. But I'll withhold that comment. I'll say that the bottom line at this point in time are three things. One, there's a heightened level of risk, kind of across the board, and it relates to privacy, security, the public media perception, and international travel. And so in general, the ultra high net worth, top 1%, high income people, the media is telling everyone that we're not doing our fair share, which of course we are, and then some. And these people are wildly charitable at the same time and do all kinds of good things, and it's unappreciated. Meanwhile, we've got half the population paying no income tax whatsoever. The top 1% pay over 37% of all income taxes all by themselves. And I've seen estimates they pay between 60 and 80% of all taxes, period. So they're paying for everything. They're paying for your streets. And literally between 50 and 60% of the population pays zero income tax, which is untenable, makes no damn sense to me whatsoever. So that profile, if you're not doing your part, is why we get all these crazy laws. And to document it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 60. There are 16 proposals, 3 of which already passed, of millionaire and billionaire taxes. So Massachusetts put a 4% surtax on anybody making over $1 million. Washington, 9.9% income tax on income over $1 million. Maine put a 2% surcharge on high income. New York City's looking for this pied-à-terre tax on any property over $5 million. Illinois trying to go to 12%, and they proposed a millionaire tax on top of it. Minnesota, Rhode Island, Virginia, Maine, Michigan, Connecticut, New York has other proposals, New Jersey, California, Hawaii. 11% of income over 200,000. They're getting pretty greedy. Hawaii's nice. It's not that nice. So the public is pushing our politicians, some of whom are talented, most of whom are not particularly talented, to do things that make no sense because they don't have the economic backgrounds, the finance, the accounting, or any understanding of how this stuff works. I'm talking about the House, not the Senate. And so you've just got people doing all that. And the local politicians, it's like Andy and Mayberry, except, not as honorable or well-intended. So it's a mess out there. And this is just permeating, and people are flying left and right. We've moved people out of Maine, out of Massachusetts with the millionaire tax. We probably took 20 people between Facebook, Zynga, Google, Twitter, and Roblox who left California in a heartbeat. Mostly people became billionaires on the day of the IPO. They scooted so fast it made your head spin. And people are running to Puerto Rico where there's a 4% tax. So there's a lot of options to go. So this risk piece is a big deal. And I generally believe whether it's the media perception or criminality, lack of law and order in so many jurisdictions, like, the Republic of Chad, somewhere in Seattle, where the hell that was, that is causing all kinds of worry, and it relates to personal security. International travel is more of a concern, and privacy is a bigger concern. And the bottom line is that I feel that the majority of high net worth and ultra high net worth families do not appreciate the level of risk to which they're subject. So more time and attention should be paid to conduct and conduct protocols, security, asset protection, liability management, personal, police, security guards, safety measures, and just staying off the radar screen. The second piece, also caused by these states, again, they're all the blue bankrupt states that are doing this, right, across the board. There's hardly any exceptions. And all the most bankrupt states are the blue states. What a shock, because you run out of other people's money, or everyone just leaves, right? The first to leave, Asians, then whites, highest income, highest net worth, business owners, most highly educated. So it's a tax drain, it's a capital drain, it's a spending drain, it's a job drain, and it's a brain drain. Exactly the people you want to stay are the first to go. So therein lies the problem for the bankrupt blue states, of which I reside in. So this taxpayer flight goes on all over Europe, all over the world, and people will pick the jurisdiction to achieve something they can tolerate. And people can kind of live overall with about a 30% tax. As the tax goes above that, people start fighting really hard and say, you've exceeded the limit. Man should be entitled to keep his own earnings, what he works for, and you're taking too damn much of it. And that's pretty much an across the world view, which we largely ignore. So I think that's the second. And then finally, the risks of these enactments that are anti-wealth and assess people that are already paying way more than their fair share, that's going to continue. I think that's the mindset that's out there. All the problems are caused by the wealthy people. And part of it is 25 years ago, half the population could read and write at an 8th grade level, which to me means you shouldn't be able to vote, have children, or drive cars, which is why I have no future in politics. But now, in 25 years, we've devolved into 6th grade. So half the population can read and write at a 6th grade level, which is unbelievable. A corporal in the Civil War could write better than some college-educated people today. I mean, what's wrong with this picture? So this destruction of public education is painful, and it's largely the cities and it's the teacher unions, and it's going on in Chicago as well, and it's going to hurt us all. It jacks up criminality, causes all kind of problems, and AI is going to remove an awful lot of jobs. It's not going to remove your plumbers or your carpenters, but a lot of low-level jobs are going to disappear, and it's going to become a more challenging environment. So I think we're in for a fun ride here. It should be very interesting to see how this stuff plays out. There's always points in times with lots of challenges, and there's nothing new about any of this. But that's kind of where we sit. And then the war kind of lays on top of this because the price of gas and some consumables affecting the average guy, and they don't know why or understand what to do about it or the consequences of what we're doing and why we're doing it. But they're not happy that they had their first $100 fill up. I'm included in that crew. So the impact of that and the force that puts on political decision making should be very interesting to watch. I think we'd like to get this over with relatively quickly. if I were president, I would have gone into Iran 50 years ago when they took our hostages, and we wouldn't be having these discussions right now because they wouldn't be around. So a little too late, in my opinion. Right thing to do, but I would increase the size of the force dramatically and end this thing in fairly short order. They bombed enough American and other allied military bases, enough ships, taken hostage, shot down airplanes. Yeah, I've kind of had it. They've gone through their grace period, and now they're. What did I love what FDR said? They've asked for it. They've got it coming to them, and we're going to give it to them.
Bush too had a choice. He could either withdraw or surge. He decided to surge, and he was able to get Iraq back under control. So let's see what happens here on this. And I will tell you this: I do want to thank the government of the state of Illinois, because I was at the office building that Ken Griffith and Peter Thiel and the rest of them all have retreated to, and they have. It's a very secure building. It's a very modern building. It's got some great views. When you come down, Tom, we're going to go there.
That's right there on Brickell, right?
Well, it's called the 830 Brickell, but it's in the Brickell neighborhood. It is not on Brickell, but that's a topic that we're going to have to leave for another day when we talk about real estate. But I can't wait to see you. Come down here. I've got some families that you need to meet. I've got some community leaders I want you to meet. And I want to take you out to dinner at that fancy restaurant so you can see all the people that left your town and left you holding the bag.
I'll probably see some of my friends and neighbors.
That's another great show. But so I want to thank Tom Handler. Tom, give us a little plug. How do people find you and get a hold of you?
We're in Chicago. Our website, handler.law, easy to find. And if we can help you, we're happy to. We've got over 200 presentation decks, 80 published articles. We just give them out to anybody who wants them. So if we can help, we'll help. So many people have helped us. It'd be hard to pay back all those favors and kindnesses. So, and if we don't have anything and we can't help you, we'll try to find you someone that can.
You're tremendous, Tom. Thank you for being my go-to person on so many things. I want to thank you again, Tom Handler. Please stick with us in the green room. I've got to talk a little business with you after the podcast. I want to remind everybody, you can find us if you missed anything on today's podcast. You can find this episode and all the others on all the different podcast services. We're also on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch, Twitter. It's all there. It's everywhere. And we'd love it if you sent us your comments, your thoughts, and who you'd like to see. I want to remind everybody, I want to thank our friends at Warren Henry Automotive. I want to thank our friends at the University of Florida Center for Real Estate Studies. I want to thank Tom Handler and Handler Law Firm. I want to thank Miami Podcast Studios. And I want to remind everybody, and Tom is a great example. This Mr. Handler is a self-made man who's built that firm from scratch. And he will tell you that the person wants to do something finds a way. The other finds an excuse. Now go out there and make it happen. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. Miami Podcast Studios. The rest of the show is